Yo, what's up, man? It's your boy Starstatus Chris. Today we're gonna do a whole breakdown of this King Von and Quando Rondo NBA whole fiasco because it's turned into a whole mess. But before we do that, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and also when you get done watching the video, jump in the comments. Let me know if I missed anything, if there's anything that I should have included, or just if you got any point of view on the whole situation. So once this whole situation happened, it kind of left everybody looking like confused because it seemed like it came out of nowhere with this whole. Now I'm going to start at the end. So I'm going to start from the end and I'm going to work my way up to the top of the story. So once everything happened in Atlanta with Quando Rondo and Lil Timmy and Von and his people, it kind of had people confused because a lot of people didn't know how serious this beef was, and I don't think people realized it was serious, how serious it was, like to the extent it was to where Von actually lost his life. So let's go ahead and start from the top. This beef really starts from YNW Melly and NBA. So it was a whole thing that happened with them at Atlantic inside the record company in the building, where these two camps got in a fight. It wasn't really like publicized on why or what actually happened, like what led to it, but they all got in a fight. Quando Rondo was included into this fight. It was Bowden and it was Juvie. I think those are the two that actually are deceased now. But he actually did a whole Facebook Live explaining the whole situation where it was NBA and it was Melly. And NBA did take off on Melly and he hit him, but Melly came back and hit him a few times, and then that's when all the crews got involved, NBA and Melly's crew, and they all just got into like this brawl, and Quando Rondo got involved too with this whole fight. So it's gonna make sense once I connect all the dots. I know you're all like, what does YW Melly got to do with this? But this was like a big fight. It wasn't really like publicized because you got two street camps that they're not gonna really like get on the internet and really blast like the situation. So it really kind of like went underneath the radar, and it was kind of like one of them things that people kind of heard about, but they wasn't sure if it actually happened or not. But it did happen. They did get into an actual fist fight. So this is an actual, like, they got physical. So between both of the camps. And why this becomes important is because the manager of Melly is actually the manager of King Von. So this correlation is so strong because you got to know that Melly and Von was really like tight at the time. You know, they shared the same manager, but they also end up having like a friendship after a while. You know, when you're working with somebody for a while, you start to get close with them. You start to hang out with them. You start to know them as an actual person versus just their musical side. So they end up getting pretty close, and we know what happened with Melly. He ended up catching the case about his homeboys. So he ended up going to jail. So now what I'm about to get into, I think, is more of like opinion based, but this is a fact. That was the first part, was really fact based on this fight happening between both of these camps at the record company, and they both got into like a fight, and it was a big like brawl, and it was a big thing. But this is why I think that Von took it upon himself, and like went into he took more of a stance of like, okay, Melly's locked up, and I'm going to go ahead and take up his beef, because he didn't feel like NBA was really like that. And I mean, you can kind of tell by the way he treated the whole situation. You can always tell when like somebody feels like they have the upper hand in a situation, because you got to think, Von is a real street cat. He had he had bodies behind him allegedly. So it's like, he feels like on his level, like he's really this guy, that like these guys are younger than him. They don't really like have that much power that he had at the time. So he didn't really take these guys serious. He just kind of looked at it like, I'm going to really kind of like bully the situation. I'm going to really just, manhandle the situation, and which led into like a lot of different stuff. So we get to moving along. We see that Vaughn, he's in the car on IG Live one day, and an NBA song comes on, and then he kind of just looks at the camera and he's kind of be like, man, what the hell YG talking about? YB talking about? He ain't even like that, and it kind of like, I think when he said it, it kind of like confused a lot of people because we never heard of no issues between Vaughn and NBA, so it was kind of like weird to hear that. But like I said, if you know the story of this fight that happened at Atlantic with both of these camps, then you know that, like, okay, it's something there. It's just indirect, with Vaughn being, friends with Melly and his manager, and they were involved with the fight. And Quando, keep in mind that Quando was involved with this fight, in this first fight, not the hookah fight where the shooting happened, but the actual fight where it was NBA and the BBGs and like the whole like NBA camp. Like he was involved in that fight, so it was already tension there. So on Vaughn's mind, he's looking at Quando Rondo the same way as he's looking at YB at the time. Like he's looking at him as an enemy because he's getting bread with Vaughn and his people. He's not getting bread with NBA. You know what I'm saying? So he's taking that stance. I have a relationship with these people, and I'm a real street cat, and I have real stats behind me in the street. So like I said, he didn't take them guys serious like that. So he says this about YB on the live and says that he's not really like that, and he basically checked his G card. I mean, when you come at somebody like that, man, you pretty much are. You really trying to snatch that gangster away from him and saying like, yo, he ain't like that, like y'all, he got y'all food. This guy ain't like that. So we get into like the next part where, we get more of subliminals. We get more of young boy doing songs and talking about him like Dead Trolls. That was a song that a lot of people didn't know who exactly he was talking about. I know a lot of people thought he was talking about Fredro and 6ix9ine, but that whole Dead Troll song was pretty much about Vaughn, like top to bottom. I think he might have had a few bars in there for somebody else, but Vaughn caught the majority of the bars in Dead Trolls. You know what I'm saying? Like he caught the like a lot of them bars that was in that Dead Troll song. And after this song got released, Vaughn didn't actually make a song. He went on Twitter and he pretty much said like, people need to stop putting my names in raps, before I really pull up and all this. So he took more of a gangster stance on it. His stance wasn't to get in the studio and, respond back to it. So once that song came out, you didn't really, you kind of heard people, put the tag that it was a King Von diss, but I'm saying, a lot of people don't know about these situations that's happened between these camps, so they couldn't really pinpoint if it was about Vaughn or not. You know what I'm saying? Which has changed now since everything has transpired. But at the time, a lot of people didn't know who the hell he was talking about during that song. And then we move forward. Let's go ahead and move forward to this whole Twitter stuff, because a lot of stuff that like we heard from Vaughn was really like Twitter stuff, like towards the end. And he pretty much went in talking about smashing Young Boy's baby mom. And if we know anything about Young Boy, we know that like when it comes to like any of his family, his mom, his baby moms, like that seems like a trigger. You know what I'm saying? Like you almost hear like every time you've heard somebody say something about his family or his girlfriends or baby mom, it's always ended bad. So once I seen that Vaughn was taking that way of, getting on Twitter and saying like, I got stuff in my phone of her that, if I release it, then you won't want to claim your kids. I'm like, bro, that's always. Now I'm just speaking like off the, like just not even on their situation. Anytime that you bring up somebody's, baby mom, I don't care if they on bad terms or not, but once you do that and you involve people with family, you're pretty much asking for some trouble, man. Like you're pretty much asking for some trouble. Like the most powerful men have almost all of them have stories of like pretty much like being the death behind a woman. So it's like once you involve women in the ego, because a lot of this is ego too. Because I can even say that, NBA and I'm talking about, when I say NBA, I'm talking about YB. I can say they share like the similar fan bases. So they both have tapped into like this fan base where they both have like these very like devoted fan bases that like really believe them. So you also have a little bit of that in there as well, you know. So it's like, who's the most authentic? Who's the most, you know, who's the real killer? Who's the real, you know? It becomes an ego thing as well, and you involve women. That's a recipe for a disaster. You know what I'm saying? So so we get all these tweets and stuff, and we get the DJ Academics video, or interview. I want to get into that as well, which he also talked about it. Academics didn't really press him on the whole situation, but he kind of like, you know, brought it up, and King Von kind of took the whole stance of like, yeah, it ain't a serious beef, you know, it's just, you know, we share the same women. I mean, he might have felt like that's not a big deal, but that's a big deal. You know, like women, like I said earlier, like women, like men have been like historically have died behind women. So we can't necessarily sweep that under the rug and say it's not a big thing, because it is a big thing, especially when you get into like, you know, you're messing with somebody that they have kids together. And I mean, like YB has wrote numerous of songs about this girl, so obviously he has a lot of love for her. You know what I'm saying? So you can't necessarily say like it's no big deal. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we just share the same women. You know, but he downplayed and he didn't talk a lot, talk a lot on it. But then we move, like I'm gonna think after that Academics interview dropped, I'm gonna think it was a really like probably like a 10 hours later we hear about Von getting into like, we didn't hear about altercation at first. We just heard that he was shot, and then later came out was dead. So it was like just super weird, because it seemed like we just watched him on the interview and he's talking about everything, and he touched on a lot of like street stuff, and then the next minute we hear that he's shot. You know what I'm saying? And now all these facts are coming out, you know, or some like alleged, some of the facts are coming out about this whole hookah thing and this shooting and whatever. And this is why I say, man, women. Now, I don't know this for sure, but after watching the interview with King Von's manager and him basically saying like, we went to this hookah bar and we had no idea, you know, while we were there, we're just, you know, sitting around, and Von was in the car. He wasn't telling us, you know, if he wanted to go in or not. To me, that reads as, now maybe the manager didn't know, but to me it reads as if somebody gave up the drop on Quando. Somebody gave it up. Now, I don't know whether it was a female, or I almost want to bet my money that it was a female, because I can see a female, you know, giving the information to some guy she trying to impress, especially like a Von, like, hey, you know, I talked to Quando. He said he going to be, you know, kicking back here at the lounge tonight. You know what I'm saying? Because to me, it seems like if you hear him tell the story as manager, he said that they made it there before Quando and made it there and just sat outside of there. So obviously somebody gave him the drop. You know what I'm saying? So this becomes my whole like issue with Von. It's like, bro, you are like a real street guy, bro. Like you came from Chicago, you came from Old Block. You know that you can't just pull up deep on a nigga and hop out of a car and run up and swinging. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't do that. I don't care how tough you are, how many goons you got behind you. You cannot just run up on any and like that. Let's just take Quando out the situation. You can't just do that on anybody. You know what I'm saying? Because we live in times where nobody knows your intentions. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why you run up on me. You know, I don't know why you swinging on me. So I can see why his homeboy, you know, felt the way to defend him was to, you know, pull out the firearm and shoot. And I think Von's people know this. Like, they know that Von did put himself in a situation where it was like it's kind of hard to defend that, because, you know, when it first came out, it was like, oh, Quando was just getting his ass beat, and then all of a sudden he just pulled out a gun and got to shooting. But then when we saw the whole camera footage, we seen that, you know, he was just came up to the bar, you know, he was walking around the car, and then he just automatically he met Von, and it wasn't even a split second that went on where he started swinging, and then before you know it, they both on the ground, and you just see Von still on the ground, and it was just like it happened that quick. So I think once people seen that, they're just kind of like, oh, you know what I'm saying? But Quando is actually, he's in a crazy position, because even if, like, even though, like, I'm pretty sure his homeboys and everything know that, you know, Vaughn pretty much caused that on himself and he shouldn't have did that. He's going to still be faulted by default. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's still going to take that heat because, I mean, you're just going to take that heat because that's one of the main guys from Chicago, and they really praised him. So you're going to take that heat regardless, and it just is what it is. So it's like whatever happens moving forward is just going to be like, okay, you know, it is what it is, because you took one of our, you know, our main guys. You know, this is, I don't think you guys realize how big this loss was for Chicago to lose Vaughn. Like, that's a huge loss. Because you're losing somebody who also makes dope music, but you're losing somebody who also represents something for a lot of people. So whenever you lose something like that, man, it hurts. So I feel for them guys, man. I mean, I definitely feel for them guys right there. And then we get Quando releasing this song, End of Story. Now, this is why I say I understand it. I understand why you release a song like this as from a business aspect. I get it, because Quando just came off an album selling what, 3,500 copies, 2,500 copies. So I understand, like, your name's in the search engine right now. Everybody's on you. Everybody, like, people that didn't even know your name knows your name. So it's like, what way can I take advantage of this situation right now? I get it, but from from a logical standpoint of me sitting back and looking at the whole situation, and I don't think making a song was the best choice just for his homie. Like, because, you know, that's like his homeboy is going, like, I'm pretty sure they're going to make sure you have the best attorneys and everything as well. But just for your homeboy's sake, I don't think it puts him in the best position, because he hasn't got to properly defend himself yet. But I understand why he would actually make a song like that, because, I mean, we are in the music business. So, you know, it's all about drama. It's all about, you know, views and capitalizing off of these moments. So I get it. You know, the situation is hot right now. So I get that whole song. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, a lot of what he said in that song, I get it. I understand it. Like, even before, like, and I think this is why a lot of people are going to look at this song a certain way, because it didn't take the song for people to understand the situation, Quando. Like, people, we already seen it. Once we seen the whole footage, it was people that already said, oh, damn, you know, my brother would have did the same thing. My cousin would have did the same thing. My best friend would have did the same thing. So you automatically got the W on that side. So you really didn't have to say anything. But like I said, I get the whole point of having to say something as well. You know what I'm saying? But I just don't think, you know, well, I know this whole situation is not going to end, because once somebody gets taken, like, of that caliber, it just never ends, you know, and somebody goes from that side and somebody's going to have to go from that side, and it's just back and forth. So it's really just a all in bad situation for both camps, you know. But yeah, man, I just wanted to make this video real quick. I didn't want to have it so long, but I just wanted to get into all the details. But the origins of all this, man, is from the YNW Melly situation that was with NBA, and Vaughn kind of inherited that and took it on upon himself to kind of like keep the situation going as well. And unfortunately, we lost his life in the process, man. So, you know, it's a sad situation. And my prayers go out to Vaughn and his family and everything, man. And yeah, I just hope that, you know, people look at this situation more of a situation where they just don't get involved with certain things and certain people, you know, and don't try to live up to being a certain, you know, image or being a tough guy, because at the end of the day, it's not worth it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to be signing out. Go ahead and smash that like button, jump in the comments, and go ahead and subscribe to the channel, man. We're getting close to being monetized, so go ahead and do that for me, man. I appreciate y'all time. Y'all take care.